Happy Palm Sunday. Did you know that Easter is such a big mystery that the church in its wisdom hundreds and hundreds of years ago gave us 6 weeks to get ready? Because you can't come close to something as hard to understand as a cross and a tomb made of stone that becomes empty and a resurrection without a way to get ready. And so on this last week of Lent, let's let art and the story that makes us Christians help us walk most of the way to Easter, a story that will finish and start again next week. Let us go. In the beginning, God chose Mary to be the mother of God. Listen to those words. God chose Mary to be the mother of God, and the Word was born, a wordless child. And when the baby looked up into the face of the Mother Mary, all he saw was love. And when the baby looked up into the face of the father Joseph, love was there too. And the Mother Mary and the father Joseph loved that baby, and they kept him close and warm and gave him everything he needed to grow. And he grew and he grew. When the baby, Jesus, grew to be a boy of about 12, he went with his family and many people from his village in Nazareth. And they walked the great road to the walled city of Jerusalem to celebrate one of the high holy days. And when the celebration was over, they packed up their cooking things and their sleeping things, and the people of Nazareth walked through the gate of that great city and back on the road to Nazareth. Mary and Joseph walked along with their friends, and they assumed Jesus was walking along with his friends. But when they went to find him, he was not there. So they did what all parents do. They dropped everything and went back to find him. And they walked through those dark and crooked streets in Jerusalem. And they went back to the market where they bought their things to eat. They went to the place where they put their sleeping things and slept, and he was nowhere. After 3 days, they went to the temple to pray. And that was where they found Jesus. And he was surrounded by the priests, the rabbis. And when Jesus spoke, they listened, because this young boy knew so much. And when they spoke, the priests and the rabbis, Jesus listened, for there was so much more he wanted to know. Mary and Joseph asked Jesus the question that all parents ask: why did you do this? And Jesus answered them with an answer they didn't understand then. Didn't you know I would be in my Father's house? Well, Joseph's carpenter shop was in Nazareth. Mary and Joseph did not understand Jesus' answer then, but they did not forget. We'll go with this one. Jesus grew and grew. And when he was a man of about 30, he went to the Jordan River where his cousin John, who he'd known his whole life, was baptizing people. You can sort of see the back of John's head. They say he was a wild man. Jesus went into that water of the Jordan River, and he stood right in front of his cousin and said, "Baptize me." And John looked at him as if he was seeing him for the very first time, and he said, "You are the one we've been waiting for, the Messiah. I cannot baptize you." And Jesus said, "No, it is written, John, you will come before me and prepare the way." And so Jesus was baptized in the chaos of the Jordan River, and when he came up out of the water, there were people there that day that swore they saw a dove descend from the heavens. And there were other people there that day that heard a voice, and the voice said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." After he was baptized, Jesus walked to the other side of the Jordan River, where there was wilderness and desert. And he went there for 40 days and for 40 nights to learn what his work was to truly be. There was hardly anything in the wilderness. Not much to eat, not much to drink, and really no comfortable place to rest. And while Jesus was there, a voice came to him. And the voice said, "You must be hungry. Surely the Son of God can turn one of those stones over there into bread to have something to eat." And Jesus said, "No. To be fully human is about much more than bread." Later, the voice came back, and it was as if Jesus was at the top of the temple in Jerusalem. And the voice said to him, "Why don't you jump? For surely God will send God's angels to catch you." And Jesus said, "No, we are not to test God." That voice came back a third time. And this time it was as if Jesus was so high he could see every kingdom that was on earth. And the voice came to him and said, "If you follow me, I will make you king of everything you see before you." And Jesus said, "I am to be a king, but not that kind of king." The voice went away, and after the 40 days were over, Jesus crossed back over the Jordan River and went into the world to do his work. What was Jesus' work in the world? I think we can say it was two things. Jesus' work was to come close to people, especially people that no one else came close to. Here you can see Jesus' fingers getting close to a blind man's eyes. When Jesus comes close to you, you are changed. People could see things they'd never seen before, and they could do things they never imagined they were capable of. They became well. Jesus' other work was to tell a kind of story called a parable, and he told many parables until the time came when Jesus was to become a parable. That brings us to today. Jesus and his 12 went to Jerusalem, and while the people were there, it was the time of the great feast of the Passover, and people from all over the Roman Empire were there to celebrate. And they heard that Jesus was coming, a king, someone to save them from the Romans. They were expecting a king, maybe riding a white horse, maybe with an army full of riches, but they weren't paying attention. Jesus did come in, but he was riding on a donkey, and the donkey wasn't even his. Nevertheless, the people welcomed him with branches, and that was Sunday. On Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, Jesus went to the temple where he prayed and he taught those gathered there. Jesus was becoming a troublemaker to the temple guards. And so on Thursday, they were going to take him prisoner. But on Thursday, Jesus didn't go to the temple. Instead, Jesus and his 12, his friends, walked through those crooked, narrow, dark streets of Jerusalem. And they went into a home and up to an upper room. And there they had their fill of everything they wanted to eat and to drink. And then Jesus took a piece of bread, and he gave thanks to God for it, and he broke it, and he shared it with them, and said, "Whenever you do this, I'll be with you." He took a cup of wine and gave thanks to God for it, and shared it with everybody there, and said, "Whenever you share a cup like this, I will be with you." The 12 did not understand what he was saying, but Jesus was always saying challenging things. One of the 12 got up and left the table, Judas, and he went out into the night. And Jesus and his friends sang some songs, and then they went back to their sleeping place on the Mount of Olives. Jesus prayed for a while in the garden. And then when he came out, Judas came up and kissed him. And from the shadows, the temple guards took Jesus into the dark night. The others faded into the night too. So as we think of this story, I have one question for you. Is there any part of this story that feels close to your story? Or is there any part of this story you think you're in? And maybe that's the piece that you want to pray about or think about as we go through this most holy of weeks to get ready to come close to the mystery that is before us. Amen.